Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and having a fantastic week. Now today's video is all about why having a rescue parrot or considering a rescue parrot might not be the right choice for you. And now I want to stop you there. Please don't go into the comments immediately and tell me how I'm wrong. I want you to just listen for a second, because I am not saying by any means don't get a rescue parrot. I have 3 and I'm going to tell you about them in a second. But I want you to be making the right choice for you and your lifestyle and for the parrot as well, because parrots are the most rehomed type of pet in the entire world. And that's because even when they're not a rescue or they haven't had a bad upbringing, even when they're hand reared and they're lovely and cute and fluffy, they are hard work. And I mean hard work. I've made a video on this, you know, the realities of having pet parrots. I may even make an updated one, because there are so many more challenges, especially now we have 5 parrots. So what I'd like you to consider is whether not only a parrot that's had a great upbringing, but a parrot that's had a bad upbringing, potentially as a rescue, and the worst case scenario of their behaviour, because rescues can be really hard work. Pickles is currently biting my ear. That's not because she's a rescue, it's because she's being a pest. But there are so many different challenges. When you have rescue parrots, you don't always know their background, you don't know their health status, you don't know what behavioural challenges you'll have, because sometimes when a parrot comes to you, they might not show their behavioural issues until a little bit further down the line. So could you handle excessive screaming, or just screaming in general like the boys are going to do throughout this entire segment? Can you handle biting, and not just bites from small parrots but bigger parrots if that's what you're considering? As I've said before, it's perfectly possible for you to have a bigger bird as your first bird, as long as you do the research. However, some bigger birds who already have existing behavioural problems may not be best for people who have limited experience with parrots, so bear that in mind. Also, can you handle potential stereotypic behaviours or abnormal behaviours such as plucking, pacing, all these kind of things, destructive behaviour? And can you handle if maybe your parrot doesn't like you as a person to start off with? It can take a really long time to build up a bond with your parrot, and if you're expecting your bird to come home and say thank you so much for rescuing me, I'm gonna love you forever, it's not gonna happen. They may pick one person in the household to start off with, and there are techniques to go through that. They may just not like males or females or whoever it may be in the house. It's just one of the things that can happen. And sometimes getting a parrot, not just a rescue parrot, can be a bit like a lucky dip. You just don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how their personality is going to flourish, and as I said, you don't necessarily know what they've been through. Even when you're told what they may have been through, there may be some things that were missed out, so that is something to consider. And I am by no means trying to say don't get a rescue parrot. As I've said, I have 3, but I really want to discourage people who may be doing it because they feel like they want to do a good deed, or they feel like that's the only option. There are some people who really stigmatise getting birds from a breeder, and I feel if you're, for example, a novice bird owner but you would really like one, and you've done so much research and you feel like this is the right path for you, but you haven't got experience with really difficult, challenging behavioural issues in parrots, I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a good, reputable breeder who really takes their time with the birds, cares about their birds, isn't trying to shift them out, you know, really cares about the health and welfare of their birds. There's nothing wrong with that. Chip and Fish are from a breeder. That was the right decision for us at that time. It's not that we couldn't cope with rescues, that's what we wanted to do at that time, and that was okay for us. And I would never ever stigmatise anybody who thought that they wanted to go down the breeder route, as long as they choose a reputable breeder and they're doing it for all the right reasons. Similarly, I would also really respect people who go down the rescue route and are doing it for all the right reasons. They're not doing it for sort of themselves, saying, oh, I got a rescue parrot, aren't I great? They're doing it because they feel like they can give that specific parrot the best possible forever home. So that's kind of where I want to go. It's been a bit of a ramble, but I just wanted to get these thoughts out there because I feel like there's a real divide sometimes on the internet, and people can be quite judgmental sometimes about the idea of you can only rescue, and if you go to a breeder it's bad. So I just wanted to say that. Obviously rescuing is great. Anyway, let's get into the rest of the video. I wanted to introduce you to my 3 rescue conures. They're all green cheek conures, different colour mutations, but they all have different kind of rescue stories and different behavioural backgrounds and that kind of thing. So I wanted to show you how 3 birds of the exact same species can be totally different with their rescues. So let's start off with Pickles. She is a cinnamon green cheek conure. She was the first conure that we brought home. She is almost 2 years old, and she's actually pretty good for a rescue. We're technically her 3rd home, and when she came to us, she was very adorable. She loved her scritches straight away. She's bitey because that's a kind of Conya's personality, but she's generally pretty good. I mean, she has her moments and she's obsessed with trying to bite a hole through my ears, aren't you? Yeah. But generally she is an absolute dream, and we obviously love her to bits, and she's so smart and she loves training, and I think she wants to go to David right now. She loves dancing, but generally she's actually a really chilled out bird, and we got pretty lucky with her, and not everyone is going to have an experience like we did with Pickles, and I want to show you why with my next two Conyas. So this here is Scampi. He is a yellow-sided green cheek Conya, and he was our second Conya that we brought home. We are his fourth home, and there's probably good reason for that, because he has some behavioural challenges, and we're going to tell you about them, aren't we? And he's going to make his adorable happy noise on my shoulder and play with my hair, which is great. So he is very bitey. He hates fingers, which is always good fun. He had no step-up training, and when you have a bird who has no step-up training and hates fingers, you're going to get bitten pretty hard, and I did. Obviously we are very experienced with birds, as we said many times, but sometimes biting happens, and unfortunately it did happen with Scampi, and he doesn't mean to, he's just unsure and he doesn't know what he's doing. And even Conya bites are extremely painful when they want to be, so that's something to consider. Just because a bird is small doesn't mean that their bites aren't necessarily going to hurt very much. They definitely do with Conyas. Obviously a macaw bite or a cockatoo bite is going to hurt a lot more, but bear in mind that these little beaks can really do some damage if they want. In fact, my boyfriend David actually has a whole video that he's recently released all about how to stop your bird from biting, and we're using the techniques in that video to hopefully curb some of Scampi's biting. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a card at the top and a link in the description. Now, Scampi is also very loud, and when we were quarantining him in the other room, he would scream every time we left the room, because he's a very social bird, just like all parrots, and he wants to be part of the action. So that was a consideration. And also when we went to the shop and we'd go and lock the door, we could still hear him calling for us for a little while. He's much better now that he is in the main room. It's more like a bird room now than a living room, but that's fine. That's the life we've chosen. Yes, I know. But he's very mischievous, and when he wants to, he really goes off on one, and he will bite and bite as hard as he can, and that's just because he hasn't really learned many manners in his previous homes, and we are gradually working on that. But this is going to be a long process, and it's not something that happens overnight, and we're fully prepared for that. We knew that it was going to be a challenge when we took him on, and that's okay. But for some people, taking Scampi home thinking that you're going to have a really friendly, lovely bird who's going to behave, and then getting this little chap would be quite a shock. And I suspect for some less experienced owners, he may end up going back to the rescue and going to look for another home. So again, just because you feel like you're doing the right thing and you're doing something good by getting a rescue bird, you may not be able to cope with some of the challenges that comes with it. And this is the kind of point of the video. I'm not trying to say don't rescue a parrot. I'm just trying to get people to consider all the options before they go down that route. So the other three things that we've noticed with Scampi is he likes to food guard. So if we go to take his bowl out or we try and put it in, he goes a bit crazy and screams and tries to bite us. So again, something we're working on. He also doesn't like going home, or he didn't like going home when he first came to us. That's what we were told by the rescue. So we've been working on that. We've been doing target training with him, and he's doing so much better now. I didn't think we'd get to this point, but he will voluntarily go in through target training now, which is absolutely fantastic. But again, if you're not familiar with training techniques and ways to troubleshoot, then you may have to keep catching him up and putting him back in, and that's not going to help build trust. That's going to often break the trust. And the other thing about Scampi is he's slightly more reluctant to explore his cage. He has a reasonable sized cage. He's going to go into one of these Liberta Oregon flight cages later on, once we've decided who's going to be pairing up with who, or if they all happen to live together as a flock. That would be amazing, but we'll see later down the line. But he's absolutely fine in this cage, but he is slightly more reluctant to kind of explore and try other toys. He does copy Pickles a lot, and if he sees her going down to go and play with her toys on the floor, because that's one of the things she loves to do, he will often try and do it as well, but sometimes he just needs a bit more encouragement. And again, we're using target training with that, and also some of the other techniques that I have in one of my other videos, which is how to encourage your bird to play with toys. Sometimes birds, especially rescues, won't know how to play with toys, and they'll kind of just sit in their cage and just look out on the world. But there are so many different techniques that you can use to encourage your bird to play with toys, and I will leave, again, a card at the top and a link in the description for you to check it out. And just quickly, if you're wondering why there is now a towel on top of Pickles' cage, Scampi is quite interested in Pickles, but Pickles hates Scampi, so he likes to fly on top of her cage, and then she, if given the chance, would go up and probably bite his toes off. So when he's out and about, we usually put a towel just at the top, just to protect the both of them. We sometimes do it with the boys, because he loves flying up there, but the boys are a bit more chilled out, and yeah, I know, they're a bit more tolerant of it, should we say, although they're not too keen with him flying around like a crazy bird. But you are a fantastic flyer, aren't you, Scampi? Yeah, he's doing his happy noise. He's so good at flying, which really surprised us. We didn't realise that. But yeah, we absolutely love him. He's just making me laugh all the time. We love him to bits, and we wouldn't change him for the world, but he has definitely been a challenge. So this here is our third conure and most recent addition to the flock. Her name is Olive, and she is barely a year old, and she is a bit of a nightmare. I'm joking, like, we knew that we could handle any kind of worst case scenario, as I said, when we took on a bird, but she is very bitey. As you can see, I'm using a sleeved hand to hold her because she has an extremely sharp beak and she has not been taught how to control her bite force. And we're also using a simple perch to offer her to step up if she wants to, so she doesn't have to go on the hand, because she has this kind of strange fear of hands. That's not what we were told when she came to us, but that is the behaviour that she is expressing with us. And of course we are going at her own pace, we are trying to take it nice and slow and simple, but you just don't know what you're going to get when you bring a bird home, as I said. Now, she's also quite hormonal. We've caught her doing some naughty things in her cage, and she also likes to play with her toys at 4 AM, which is a new one. I've not seen that before, and she's a real character, and she's absolutely stunning, and she loves her scritches from David. She's turning into a bit of a daddy's girl. Not overly fussed with me, but she'll have it occasionally, but she's really into her scritches. But for some reason, the fingers and scritches is fine, but fingers and stepping up is not fine. So we're working through all of this, and it is going to take a really long time, but we'll get there, won't we, Olive? So Olive is actually scared of the dark. We were told this when we took her in, and we tried just a dark room with a nightlight, as we do with the other birds, and she was not happy about it. So we're having to, well, we had to start with lots of light and then slowly dim it down for evenings, which is not great for her sleep, but we are having to tackle one challenge at a time. And I think I mentioned she was not step-up trained when she came to us, which is obviously a challenge when she is so bitey with fingers like Scampi is, so that is definitely quite difficult as well. So it's worth mentioning as well that all three of these conures, when they've came to us, have been on an all-seed diet. Pickles now voluntarily eats her vegetables. Scampi is a little bit more sceptical. Olive seems to be really keen on her vegetables, which is really interesting. She'll even like get a bundle of kale and just hold it in her little foot, and that's just absolutely adorable. She loves banana as well. You're dancing, Olive. Olive, 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 Olive. She loves her dance. I'm sure part of this is slightly territorial, but she really offers her dancing all the time, don't you? She also smells very strange. We are bathing her regularly and she loves bathing. She wants me to literally put the spray bottle right in her chest to wash her, but she has this very strange odour about her, which is very unpleasant, so I think we're going to have to wait until her next molt for that. But that's something interesting that we were not expecting, even as experienced bird owners. And she's also very loud, as I said with Scampi. He would scream when we left the room. She's exactly the same. It's really interesting though, one thing I'll point out is they all have very different voices. Olive's is very deep and raspy, Scampi's is quite high pitched, Pickles is somewhere in between, so that's really adorable. But I think she's kind of finished being in front of the camera. She's not quite used to it, which is why she's been making some strange postures. Oh, we're going to preen her, okay, we're not that stressed. But we're going to put her home now, and that's our three conures. So as I said, they're all totally different, even with the same species, and you just don't know what you're going to get. So I hope this video has given you a bit of food for thought on the idea behind rescues and why they might not be right for everybody. Make the decision that's best for you, your lifestyle, and also the bird that you're considering getting, and then hopefully it'll all come together, and in time you'll have a really lovely relationship with the bird and you can give them the best possible home. If you have any questions or any thoughts on the video, please leave a comment, as I would love to chat to you. But from me and my very naughty birds, thank you so much for watching. Take care and see you later.